So what if the thing that is meant to help you solve problems, the thing that is meant to just make the world easier to navigate, is actually the thing that's causing you the most trouble? That's what we're going to talk about today, because we are talking about knowing your mind and how it works. So I assume this movie has already been made, or this book has already been written. I don't watch a lot of new stuff. I like to watch the same things over and over and over. But imagine there was a movie where there's like this AI that controls everything. And there's maybe like the last human on Earth, and there's something going on, and the AI and the human are working together to solve some problem. But the thing is like things keep coming up. There keeps being problems that they have to solve. And in the end, the big, like Sixth Sense plot twist reveal is that the AI was working against the human the whole time. It was creating the problems. It was setting these tasks that the human had to figure out. The AI was making things harder than they needed to be. If there was a movie like that, and I assume there is, like I said, if that movie exists, just tell me in the comments and I'll go check it out. But that would be a really good illustration of the mind and what it does to us. I think it's one of the most like common misconceptions, misunderstandings that I found when working with people as a therapist. I still see it when working with people as a coach. I always see it when I teach my meditation classes. Is when I tell people that you are not your thoughts. This is kind of like a shocking thing for them. It's always something that's just a little bit mind-blowing, because we have all just come to accept that we are our thoughts, that the things we think are us, and that we think those things. So it's kind of shocking for people to suddenly recognize that, oh my gosh, I am not my thoughts, and I don't even really think my thoughts. And further, our thoughts, although not intentionally and not on purpose or anything, they often make things worse than they need to be. They often read into situations and add things to situations that are not there, and cause us a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. So if you've ever struggled with thoughts, if you've ever struggled with not being able to like shut your mind off, or just feeling like the world is constantly out of control, then I think that what we're going to talk about today is going to be helpful for you. So I've said it on a few other videos that you are not your thoughts, and I've shared a little bit about how my thoughts tend to try to cause a lot of trouble for me. And I'm always grateful to find out that like I'm surrounded by so many enlightened people here on YouTube, because they go and they leave comments about how I just need to control my thoughts and I need to be an adult and think what I want to think. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that these enlightened people exist. I'm grateful that they take time to leave comments on videos at 3 a.m. But I think for most of us, like just being able to control our thoughts is not the thing. The little experiment I like to do with people all the time is like, right now, don't think of a basketball. Don't think of Christmas. Don't think of second grade. And each one of those things, when I said them, it brought something up in your mind. That is just what the mind does. It reflects reality. And you can look at this a lot deeper on some other videos I've released. There's a million videos about your thoughts. But the thing you need to take away from here is that not only are you not your thoughts, you don't even really think your thoughts. Your thoughts are just randomly popping up all the time. It's just your mind throwing things out to kind of see what's going to gain traction. It's reflecting reality back to you as it goes. And this is important, because when we think we are our thoughts, they get a free pass into our consciousness. Like, we don't question what they tell us. I often, like one thing I like to do with clients is they'll say something like, oh, I'm not good enough for this job, or I'm not smart enough, or I deserved for that shit to happen to me. I was being a jerk and I deserved it. And I say, like, okay, take those thoughts and externalize them. Like, step outside your head and think about how you would respond if somebody else said them to you. If somebody said to you, you're not good enough for this job. If somebody said you're just not smart enough. If something bad happened to you and somebody said, well, you deserve that. Your instinct would be to push back on that. Your instinct would be to say, like, well, no, hold on. I'm not stupid. I just made a mistake. Or I am good for this job. I earned it and I got promoted and I've got the education, or whatever. Or, man, I didn't deserve that. Like sometimes shit just happens. I didn't deserve for that to happen to me. When it comes from outside, we tend to question it and we want to push back against it. When it comes from inside our own head, because we think it's us, we don't. We just let it like have a free pass, and we just believe everything it says. It's astonishing. Like, if you will pay attention to this and start noticing what your thoughts tell you about you, and then externalize that and pretend somebody else is saying it, you'll be shocked with what you tolerate. You'll be shocked with what you allow to pass into your acceptance about yourself. So it's important to understand that, like, you don't think your thoughts, like those little lines of things running through your head up there, are not you, whatever that means. They're not specifically you. And so you do have to question them. You can't be the one that thinks your thoughts, because to think a thought, you'd have to think a thought about thinking a thought. And you'd have to think a thought about thinking a thought about thinking a thought. It goes on and on forever. When you learn to watch this, they just pop up. And this is what will help you learn to know your mind. When you recognize that all these little random things that are popping up, you don't really have to take them very seriously. You don't have to chase all of them. You don't have to internalize them. You don't have to believe them. And when you start doing that, it helps you get to know your mind. And the thing that I found is that the more I know my mind and the less I judge myself in my mind, the easier it is to deal with. Like, it doesn't cause me as much trouble as it used to. I said it earlier, like I try to use myself as an example. I don't ever want to be critical or judgmental of other people. So when I'm using like an example that's not real flattering or like the kind of thing people want to be, I tend to try to look at myself first. And so, I do notice that my thoughts still cause trouble. They seek to, especially if I'm tired or I'm not feeling well or I'm just overworked or overstressed or whatever you want to call it. My mind does seek problems. But the thing is that by getting to know my mind, I'm able to recognize it. And I'm able to say like, okay, no, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing and I'm not going to follow it. One of the coolest things I ever really learned or noticed was, there's the whole story about Siddhartha Gautama. When he became the Buddha, he sat down under the Bodhi tree and he just meditated for days on end. And Mara, or illusion, as they say, kept coming to him and trying to knock him off his path. I think that it was like, dragons would swoop down to scare him and then bad weather would come through. And all these things meant to knock him off this path of recognizing his own mind. And, Gautama, he didn't get mad at Mara. He didn't push back. He didn't try to fight. He just simply said, I see you. I see what you're doing. And I want to be clear. I know there's a million versions of that story. That's one of them, but it's the one that jumped out to me because it's what I've learned to do with my mind. When my mind says, so-and-so shouldn't have done that, they did that on purpose, they're trying to screw you over, or they just don't care, or they're self-centered, or they're just an a-hole, first of all, I don't follow it. I don't feed it and say, yeah, they are. Like, screw them. I hate that person. I don't do that. But I also don't get mad at myself and say, geez, I'm such an a-hole. Why do I think that way? Why do I do that? What I've learned to just do is just like, oh, hey, I see you, mind. I see what you're doing. And I kind of view it as like a friend. I think most of us have had that friend who would stir up trouble everywhere they went. Just that friend who was always like up to something. I don't have that friend anymore, thank God. But I've had a bunch of them over the course of my life where they would stir up trouble in your relationship. God forbid, the ones that stirred up trouble at the bar and got you into fights and stuff. I treat my mind kind of like that. It's still a friend. It's trying to help me. Like when it's bringing up things about other people, or when it's bringing up about, that I'm not being treated fairly, that's my mind using its survival capacity to say, hey, we got to make sure you're all right. We got to make sure things are working out for you. It unfortunately does this in opposition to others. And so rather than fight it, and because I know my mind, I'm able to do this, I'm able to say, hey, I see what you're doing. We're okay. That person's not going to do anything to us. And even if they do, we'll sort it out. When it's telling me negative stories about other people, I'm able to say, well, they've had a hard life, or they've just had a hard day, or this is why that makes sense to them. And the really cool thing is that by showing that compassion and that grace for other people, I've started to do the same for myself. Like, I was the last person that I was able to have compassion and grace for. I could have no judgment with condemnation for anybody else. No judgment, no condemnation for what other people did. But man, when it came to me, I was pretty hard on myself. I would say, why did you do that, James? You should know better. You're just stupid. You're just lazy. Things that I don't allow other people to say about themselves, I said to myself pretty freely. Since I started applying that grace and that just kind of just allowance of people to be human to others, I've been able to apply it to myself. This has helped me as I get to know my mind. It's helped me also be able to change my mind and change the way it thinks. Like years ago, it's been a long time now, but years and years ago, my mind was a constant problem generator. It made judgments about other people. It judged motives. It guessed. It was always mind reading. Well, they think this about you. Well, they're going to do this. Once I've gotten to know it, and now that I've gotten to know it, I've helped it be able to calm down and just say, hey, we're safe. We're okay. These things are not going to happen. To the point that now it's kind of funny, like when it pops up. Like I'm able to watch it and just recognize and say, oh, hey, like it's okay. You can calm down. It's an overactive guard dog in so many ways. Many of our minds are an overactive guard dog. Some of them are that overactive like bodyguard that's trying to protect you, however you want to characterize that. I saw it the other day. I got this new office downtown, and it's like, for me, I think it's super sharp. I like it. I'm on the 8th floor. I got this window. I get to look out. It's in this nice building downtown. But I needed to go down there before like normal office hours. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, what if you get arrested going into the building? Like, what if a cop comes along and they throw you in jail? Dude, I'm 47 years old. I've not been in jail in a long time. I haven't gotten in trouble in a long time. Like, I don't really do anything to get myself in trouble these days. I'm pretty tame and pretty boring. But my mind is just like, it's conditioned to say these things and to offer these things. And I was able to just kind of laugh and just say, that's not going to happen. And if it does, they'll realize it's a mistake and they'll let me go. Or, you know what, I got bail money these days, so it's not the end of the world. But it's not going to happen. When my mind projects forward and is anticipating problems and finding problems, I'm able to say to it like, hey, this is okay. This is not going to happen. You have to learn to recognize how your mind tints reality. Like, it's like we think that our mind is just giving us this streaming reality, that it's just bringing what's happening to us, and it's like unfiltered news. But the thing is, it's absolutely not. Our mind, it takes in reality, it's seeing all of this, but it puts it through a filter of like good, bad, negative, all of our history, our culture, all the different things. When you know that, when you know your mind, you can just start to watch that, and you can kind of sift it yourself a little more intentionally. And once again, I don't know what I say about yourself. I don't know who I mean is back there doing that. I think, I read a book a long time ago called Consciousness Explained that talked about that there is nobody watching the mind, because they call that the Cartesian theater. But what I do know is that I can observe my thoughts, and I can watch how they're bringing things to me, and how my mind is tinting reality. How it is shifting the way I see things. As I look around this room, somebody who had never been in this room before, if they walked in, they would see it completely differently from me. In my house, people would see it differently. There's things I just don't notice anymore because my mind has classified them as, that's unnecessary. You don't even need to worry about it. Then there are things that, like, there's certain movies that I don't like to watch because they bring up bad memories for me. There's music I don't like. There's bands. There's whole eras of music I don't mess with because it brings up memories of an uglier time in my life that that I just didn't like and that I don't want to go back to, even in my mind. It's not that those movies and that music is good or bad or anything like that. It's simply my mind finds it out there in the world, however you want to put that, and brings it in, but it tints it along the way. It tells me about it along the way. And over the next 2 episodes, we're really going to dive into this. We're going to talk about mindfulness and we're going to talk about meditation, because those are the best ways of observing your mind. And so in this, the first step, what I want to encourage you to do, the first step of getting to know your mind is I'd like you to just take some time over the next few days to observe your thoughts. Like, notice what your thoughts are saying. The very fact that you can observe them means that you are not your thoughts. I did a whole podcast on this. But step back and observe them, but do it with the intention of getting to know your mind and getting to understand how it works. And so the cool thing is that as you start to observe your mind, anything that we watch, we become familiar with. And once we become familiar with things, we also tend to kind of have a sympathy for them and a compassion, and we kind of like them. When we do that with our mind, it really starts to give us a compassion for ourselves and for the way we filter the world. So just observe it. No judgment, no criticism. Don't try to change it. But just every once in a while, just ask yourself, what is my mind telling me right now? I don't know if the camera picked up. My watch went off a second ago. I have random alarms scattered throughout the day so that when my watch goes off, I automatically stop and I say, what's going on right now that I can be grateful for? What is beautiful around me right now that I might not be noticing? But I also ask, what am I thinking? What are my thoughts telling me about the world? And how is that making me feel? What do I need to be mindful of in response to what my thoughts are saying? And just by training myself to do that, it has radically changed my relationship with this rogue AI that I have living in my head. That rogue AI made my life really, really hard for a really long time. It made it impossible to be in relationship with me. It made me very hard to deal with, and it made the world very hard for me to deal with. Recognizing that I had a mind, recognizing that I was not my thoughts, and recognizing that I could observe those and choose my relationship to them changed everything. So you can start that this week just by starting to notice what your mind is telling you. We're going to jump into mindfulness and meditation next. Those are kind of deep dives into this same topic. So this will be kind of like a little trilogy of understanding how your mind works and what to do about it. So I will look forward to talking to you about that next time.